This podcast contains graphic descriptions that some listeners may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Now, with that being said, welcome to the Mortal Musings podcast.
Right, let's do this.
Quick, name something that scares the bejesus out of you.
Quicksand. No, there is a reason why that popped into my head.
Okay.
So, there's a Facebook post going around. I didn't think quicksand was real. I thought it was a make-believe thing. Mm-hmm. But there was a woman, she was on the beach. She just got stuck in quicksand.
No good.
No good. I can't remember who posted it. I think it was Esther. But yeah.
From Once Upon a Crime?
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that scares the bejesus out of me. I don't know if any of you have seen it. There's a movie called The Poughkeepsie Tapes. The movie itself, I didn't find that scary. But years before I watched it, one of my friends showed me a clip, and it's like this person's face up close. And this guy doing this weird kind of cat-like walk in the background up to the victim.
Yeah. That
scared me so fucking bad. It creeped me out. Do you remember? I showed it to you, and I was like, look at this.
Yeah.
I couldn't deal with that. It's the cat-like thing. It's the movement.
I like cats, so.
I love my cat, but he's still a little bastard, so.
Another one for me is people like your father.
Meaning?
Like proper drape poke.
What?
The proper drape poke.
Drape poke.
Drape poke.
Drake. What?
Drake poke.
Drake poke.
Yeah.
What the hell's Drake poke?
It's like
It's like you're speaking different language. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, it means like someone who mumbles.
Drake poke.
Yeah.
Is that one word?
I think it's hyphenated. Or it might be.
I've never heard of that before.
Words. Oh.
Are you pronouncing this? Like, is there a chance you're pronouncing this wrong?
No.
Do you remember the other day you asked me how to spell Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah.
And you're like, what did you say? Jehovah's. Like, you were in your mind, you were convinced it was Jehovah's Witness. Yeah. I was like spelling for you, you're like, oh, that doesn't sound right at all. I do that shit all the time. I'll be typing and it's like how you say it when you're saying it quick.
If anyone's wondering why I wanted to know how to spell that, I was trying to convince someone that I was brought up
as Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
As you do.
They didn't believe me.
No.
Do you love true crime but hate that pesky paranoia and anxiety that comes along with it? We've got just what you've been looking for. Your new favorite spot for all things strange, mysterious, and you guessed it, true crime. And what makes our show different, you ask? I'm betting you're all dying to know.
Seriously?
No?
Just plug True Crime Guys proper again.
Thank you, Andy. The main takeaway today is True Crime Guys. Say it with me. True Crime Guys. How generic, right? Just imagine starting a true crime podcast and this name is still available. Yeah, we've been around a bit.
Speaking of bits, let's wrap this one up.
Subscribe to True Crime Guys wherever you listen to podcasts. Just look for the Bloody TV. Well, not like Bloody TV, not like the British Bloody, but like actual bloody. You can't miss it. It's an older style TV, blood dripping from the bottom, floating in a dark room. TV says True Crime Guys. There's a shadow on the wall. It's quite ominous, really. Yet it has levity. Andy? You know what I mean? I mean, it has levity.
I think they get it.
So, what we're covering today? Why are you fucking laughing? Because I struggled to get that out.
I immediately started thinking of the episode where you were like, horrific.
Hilarious. Right, what are we doing today?
Today, we are actually doing a case that you suggested.
I haven't suggested a case.
Well, you did. Do you remember you were watching Joe Kenda? And you came up to me afterwards and you're like, right, I've just watched...
Me watching Joe Kenda is like me deep diving into true crime. It's all I can handle.
But no, you watched an episode
and
you came up to me afterwards and were like, you have to watch this and I think we need to cover this case.
Which one?
So, Latisha Frazier.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Well, it's as soon as we start to get into it, you're going to know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But yeah, you can credit Neil for this one. He thought it was very important that we cover it, and I agree with him.
I'll link my PayPal in the description below.
Here's my email for compliments and tributes you can send to me. So are you ready?
What?
On the 2nd of August, 2010, in Washington, D.C., 18-year-old Latisha Frazier...
Oh, this one!
It didn't take long for you to get into it there, did it? What triggered you? Was it the name, the age, or the location? Or the date?
Age... What?
What?
Age and location.
What?
Guys, this is a good one. Well, it's not a good one. It's horrific, but like...
It's one that needs to be told.
It definitely needs to be told, but it's no good.
It's very callous. Say something like that. Or
What?
It was very callous.
It was very callous.
Yeah, don't be surprised if Neil's jumping in more because he's going to get excited because he has the backstory.
If I remember it.
I think you will because it wasn't that long ago. You were very excited for me to...
I wasn't excited watching it.
No, obviously you weren't excited watching, but you were very excited to tell me about this one and say, we need to cover it. After work, Latisha gets on a bus to make her journey home. Her mother, Caroline, and her sister, Latoya, are expecting her home, but she never shows up. They call her multiple times, but her phone just keeps going to voicemail. And immediately they're concerned. It's not like Latisha to just not show up. Latisha was described as a fun-loving, sweet person. She was also said to have had a positive attitude that just kind of attracted people to her.
Yeah.
But the other side of her was a very routine, responsible person, which she had to be. She goes to work, she goes to school where she studies culinary arts, and she would come home and then take care of her 3-year-old daughter, Diamond. If she wasn't working or in school, it's safe to assume she was spending time with her daughter. You know, she was her world.
Yeah.
So the next day, Latisha's family go to the police station to report her missing. And although they have to ask, if she could have possibly been a runaway, they knew this wasn't the case. Latisha would have never left her daughter. Like we said, she was her world. She may have been young at only 18 years of age, but she seemed to have had a head on her shoulders. She clearly had a goal in mind and was working towards that with her schooling as well. As Detective Middleton begins her investigation into Latisha's disappearance, she first goes to Latisha's workplace and speaks with her manager and co-workers. Now, according to her colleagues, she's one of the best workers there. She doesn't have any issues with anybody and pretty much everyone likes her. The detective asks if they saw anything unusual, and the answer is no. One of her co-workers tells the detective that she worked her shift and left for her bus as usual. Once they find out that she followed her usual pattern and what bus it was that she always takes home, they go to the bus depot and they talk to the bus driver who was on duty that night. She asks him if he recognises Latisha, which he does, and he tells Detective Middleton that she always gets his bus. So she asks the driver if he remembers Latisha being on the bus that previous evening. He said that yes, she was, and she was also with a man. So with that bit of information, the detective gets a description of the man in question, and she immediately goes to Latisha's family and asks if they knew who he was. Now, they know who he is, and they tell her that it's Latisha's boyfriend, Raynell Mills. They also let her know that he does sometimes take the bus home with her.
Yeah, routine.
Yeah, but obviously, boyfriend, you gotta suss him out. So they get in contact with Raynell, and he says that Latisha told him that she was going to meet up with some friends, but that he didn't go with her, instead he went home. So they ask him to take a polygraph test, to which he agrees, and he flew through it, no issues.
I would never take one.
They're a load of shite, really.
They can't be used.
No.
And if they pick up on anything, like you could be telling the truth, but just because you're nervous of being hooked up to this fucking machine,
yeah,
it can alter the test. So, say if you disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I have no recollection of where you've gone, who you've been with, anything. They could hook me up to a machine and they could say, do you know where Megan is? No. And it'll fucking say I'm lying. Even though they can't use it, that's it. They're hunting at me.
Yeah.
That's their tunnel vision is at me.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though they can't be used as evidence, I don't think they should be able to use them at all.
I think they're more of a confusion to anything.
Yeah.
Like you said, it kind of just makes people turn and think, well, I believe this.
It interferes with the case. It drags it out.
Yeah.
Longer than it could have.
Yeah. I get what you mean.
And then someone else could end up getting hurt in the process.
I get you.
Good.
So he flies through the lie detector, and they ask him if he knows anyone who may know about Latisha's whereabouts. So he sends them to Marcus, the father of Latisha's child. So who's Marcus? They talk to Marcus, and he was said to have been incredibly cooperative, and that he and Latisha get on and are just doing their best to co-parent their daughter together, which I have to say is really nice to hear from teenagers.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone knows grown people who struggle to do that. So now they get Marcus to take a polygraph test. Again, flies through it, no issues. So with the boyfriend and the father of her child out the way, what's the next thing they're going to do?
The friends.
The friends, yeah. So they go to talk to the friends that she was meant to be meeting up with. Brian Gaither, Johnny Sweet and Lainey Bell.
See, Johnny Sweet sounds like a prick. Doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. So when they talk to her friends, they say that they hadn't seen her and that she had never shown up when she was supposed to. So at this point, they've got nothing. They really don't know what has happened to Latisha. So what else can they do? They start going around the neighbourhood asking if anyone has seen Latisha, but they weren't having much luck. No one wants to talk to police. This is when her family start to go onto the streets and they're passing out flyers, putting them up on lampposts and just doing what they can to try and raise awareness, get her name and her face out there.
Yeah.
At least this way, if someone does know something, they can report it anonymously. After a week or so, there's still no news on Latisha's whereabouts. This is when her mother decides to really get the word out there and she contacts the media. Unfortunately, their efforts were hit with a devastating blow when the posters that they had put up were being torn down.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, not only that, her sister Latoya started receiving harassing messages over social media. Someone had set up an account using the name Monique Frazier, which was Latisha's middle name. One of the messages read, "Your sister is dead and gone. I am watching you. One dead, more to go." So Latoya's scared shitless at this point.
Yeah.
Someone clearly doesn't want them to find out the truth and what was actually going on. After they tell the police about messages that Latoya has received online, the police trace the IP address. Unfortunately, it just leads them to a vacant lot.
So, does that mean the person sending the messages, they went to that vacant lot and they're stood there, or...
I don't know how that works, because an IP address, is it not like it's to that location? Like, if it's registered to that house?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that
works.
works.
She router, like...
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm not quite sure how that worked, or if it was just something wrong with their tracking. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, turned up nothing. It's another disappointment. It's now 6 months on, and they still have nothing, but they're fairly sure at this point that Latisha's gone. They keep going and still passing out flyers, hoping for the best, but her mother said that at this point, she felt as though all she could do was close her eyes and pray. Not long after this, the police finally receive a call. This person says that they know what happened to Latisha and who was involved. So they get this person down to the station for an interview, and they tell them that Brian, Johnny and Lainey had murdered Latisha. And not just them, there was also apparently 3 others present at the time of the murder. Anika Nelson, Cynthia Proctor and Lawrence Kamal Hassan. In February of 2011, all 6 are arrested. And bear in mind, they don't have anything on these people. They need a confession. So they've arrested these 6. They're interviewing them all individually, obviously. They're all denying knowing anything about what happened. So detectives are trying to kind of catch them out, doing a bit of a he said, she said.
Yeah.
You know. Now, Anika Nelson. Anika went to the same church as Detective Middleton. So they knew that she was religious and hoped that they could sort of prey on her sense of morality.
Yeah, because I remember when they were interviewing the detective and she said, when we got them all in, we did it, like they did it so fucking well. They went to all 6 houses.
They coordinated.
They wouldn't grab one until they knew they could get all 5. They were surveilling all 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And literally at the exact same time, every team pounced and got all 6 of them into separate cars, into separate interview rooms, So there was no communication.
Yeah.
And then I remember the detective, as soon as she saw her, she went, her.
Yeah.
She's the one. You put the pressure on her. I remember
like
that.
like you said, you know, they got them all at the same time, so they can't communicate, let's get our story straight. And also, it gives them no time to be like, did you hear Anika got arrested?
Yeah.
I'm fucking out of here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Runs a tight-ass ship. So, like we said, they decided, okay, she's our target. She's going to fucking crack. And she did. She begins to tell detectives what really happened that night. Anika tells police that Latisha had come over to Johnny's apartment after work, like she said she was going to. While there, Latisha is accused of stealing $900 from Johnny's apartment. Which, pause on that for a sec, it's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, it pissed me off, that did.
Latisha was the only one out of these fuckers that actually worked.
And she worked every day.
There's no reason or even evidence that Latisha stole the money or that she'd even known that there was $900 stashed in his apartment.
I actually remember the detective saying there was no evidence, but there was ever the $900.
Which I firmly believe.
Yeah. I don't mean to put a comical spin on it, but the only thing what comes to mind for me is she thinks she's better than me.
Exactly.
That's what I got from it.
Exactly. Apparently, Latisha had actually distanced herself from this friend group. She was getting her life together. She had a job. She was getting her education. She had her daughter to care for as well. She had better things to do than be hanging about with a group of people who didn't really seem to have any intentions of bettering themselves or, you know. After they accused Latisha of theft, they began beating her. Initially, it was just the women who had attacked her, but then the lads jump in.
Yeah, because they actually organised it, but the girls would do it.
It was said that after she had suffered from a severe beating, which included them stomping on her, Latisha was laid on the floor moaning in pain. As you fucking would. They attempted to muffle her moans by putting duct tape over her mouth and a pillowcase over her head before placing her into a closet. She then tells detectives that she does know they got rid of the body, but that's as far as she knows. She doesn't know what they did with her.
Yeah.
So they go to Johnny's apartment and they search the place top to bottom. They fucking douse his place in luminol. But they couldn't find any blood. And bear in mind, again, it's 6 months later, the apartment had since been scrubbed fucking clean.
Yeah.
I mean, never mind just them cleaning up after the murder, but how many times would you have scrubbed down your bathroom and shit in 6 months?
Yeah.
So, do you remember what they did next, Neil?
Ripped up a floorboard.
Yes, because they couldn't find anything, they were like, hang on. If we rip up the floor, blood could well have seeped down underneath and we could get the DNA. So that's what they did. They ripped up the fucking floor. With no body, they really did need this DNA to link her to the scene. They were able to determine that there was blood found at the scene. They went to Latisha's family to get DNA from her personal belongings, you know, hairbrush, toothbrush, what have you. Unfortunately though, as her family had moved, they'd gotten rid of a lot of those smaller items. Fortunately, they were thinking on their feet and they went, well, hang on, we don't have her DNA. Let's do the next best thing. And they asked the mother and father to donate their DNA. So her mother and father give their DNA, and once they get the results back, it is a match. It was Latisha's DNA. Now they know they can place Latisha at the scene. It's starting to come together. It's great that they finally have that confirmation, but it's confirmation of their worst fears.
It's the first thing in 6 months.
Yeah. So once Brian is confronted with the facts, he owns up to his involvement. Like we'd previously mentioned, they invite her over, only to confront her about the $900 missing from Johnny's apartment and, quote, teach her a lesson. Brian says that they all began beating her, and Brian himself admits to putting Latisha in a sleeper hold.
So he was the prick with a Pete Doherty hat on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After Brian had placed Latisha in a sleeper hold, that was when they then decided to tape up her face and put the pillowcase over her. So they've gone this far. They're thinking, what the fuck do we do now? Their next plan of action is to put Latisha's body in the bath, where Johnny then suggests, sorry, I'm trying to word this, but...
They tried chopping her up with a bread knife.
Butter knife. So at this point, they're deep into it, and they're thinking, what do we do now? So Johnny had the brilliant idea to put Latisha's body into a bathtub and attempt to dismember her with a kitchen knife. So during this, these fucking doses realised just how fucking difficult it would be to dismember a human body with a kitchen knife. So they end up giving up and placing her body into a plastic container. They would then throw the container into a dumpster.
Yeah.
It's beyond. Right. To do this to a person, to then be like, right, we got to dismember them, to then be like, right, put them into a dumpster. Like, it's so fucking, I don't know how to say this. It's so, did you already say callous?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can say it again. It is callous.
Like,
I don't know what callous means, but it's callous.
Like Neil said at the start of the episode, it's just horrifically callous. It's so little regard for a person's life. So with that information, police know they have to try and recover Latisha's body, which by now was in a landfill in Southern Virginia. And again, 6 months on. At this point, her body had been completely buried by other rubbish that had been dumped. They were told it was too dangerous to attempt to recover Latisha's body.
Yeah, because of all the gases, weren't it?
Yeah. Methane, mate. Methane.
But
methane.
Like,
methane gas.
What do you think's worse? Not knowing where the body is? You know, it's always a wonder. Or knowing exactly where the body is and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, knowing but your daughter's body has just been chucked in rubbish. Luckily,
I've never been in that situation. But thinking about it, I feel like knowing is so much worse.
Yeah.
But, you know. Also, another point of that gets me is that Latisha had a tattoo on her arm of her daughter's name. She had diamond written across her arm.
Mm.
It would have been an easy marker to identify her body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With that, her family never even got to bury her. Now, to add insult to injury, during the 6 months the family spent looking for her, footage shows Brian helping her mother, putting his arm around her to comfort her, even allowing her to search his apartment for anything that might lead to further information about her whereabouts. It's also believed that Latisha was still in the apartment at the time he allowed Carolina in to look around.
Yeah, she was in a container.
I mean, it's twisted. Can you imagine? Like, was he just so overly confident, or was he like losing his mind at that point?
Confident.
You think?
Yeah. Because she was in a box in the closet. Because he was openly like, you can check my place out.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to go in the closet, and if she did, she wasn't going to
rifle through his personal things. Yeah.
What I don't get is the smell.
Yeah, her mother actually said there was no smell when I was in there. There was nothing that made me think anything was wrong. Johnny Sweet was the only one to actually go to trial. The rest all pled guilty. During the court proceedings, her sister Latoya recalled going to the courts. As she was in the lifts, the doors open and a man walks in, holding boxes. He got off the same floor and walked into the same courtroom. And she said her heart just dropped. She said she knew that was basically the last of what was left of what had happened to her sister.
Yeah. What I don't understand, so there's 6 involved.
Mm-hmm.
5 plead guilty. So why do you think you have the chance of saying, nah, I'm not guilty?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What's going through his head?
I don't fucking... Well, I can tell you a little bit. So Johnny pled not guilty, and during his trial, he asked the judge for mercy. He told the court that he did not have a good upbringing. At the age of 12, he would drink alcohol with his now deceased mother. Okay.
A lot of people don't have a good upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Choices.
I only had a combi boiler.
Look, that is shitty and it's bad parenting, obviously, but...
What, the combi boiler?
Yeah, it's absolutely abusive. No, but you know what I mean? Like, 12 years old, to be sat there getting pissed up with your son. Yeah. But it doesn't quite stretch to then you committing murder and attempting to dismember a person.
Yeah, with a butter knife.
With a butter knife. Regardless of his heartbreaking upbringing, Johnny was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 52 years. After his sentence, Johnny said, "I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. I had a part in it. A life was taken due to a careless decision. Hopefully someday y'all can forgive me. If y'all don't, I understand. A life was taken.
Is that what he said at Tucken?
Yeah. That's why I was struggling to read that. Because first of all, I don't say y'all, but taken really took me out. Brian was sentenced to 32 years. And Brian would later win an appeal and got a new trial. This appeal was actually because the statute of which he was sentenced under, he wouldn't have been able to receive credit for good behaviour. In 2017, he pled guilty again and was sentenced to 32 years again. During the court proceedings, Latisha's father spoke. He said that Brian should stop complaining, serve his time, and let the family finally have some peace.
Why did he only get 32?
I assume Johnny got more because he pled not guilty. At least he pled guilty. Also, Johnny was looked at the mastermind of the plan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know? Brian has since said that he is haunted every night by what he has done. As for Lainey and the others, Lainey was sentenced to 3 years because she was not physically involved. During the trial, she said it was a peer pressure thing. I got a fun fact for you. Lainey, afterwards, would go on to study nursing. She is not the one you want looking after you, is she?
No.
Fuck me. Anika, Cynthia and Lawrence received between 18 and 32 years, depending on each of their involvement. The judge also made a point to say how graciously Latisha's family had handled themselves during this horrific ordeal. Barry Campbell, Latisha's father, praised Detective Jackie Middleton during the investigation. He said that she'd really helped to just calm the whole family down during this.
I think she's actually stayed in touch with him as well. I'm pretty sure she said something like, that's when the friendship began. She stays in touch with him. I'm fairly certain.
As to why this happened, we kind of talked about it a little during the episode. There's no evidence that she stole any money. She was the only one out of them who had a job out of the work-shy bastards, and she was also trying to distance herself from these people. I think that they were pissed at her because in their minds, they believed that she thought she was better than them.
You think you're better than me?
That, yes. I personally believe that they came up with a plan to demand money from her, and when she didn't give in to what they wanted, they attacked her. Do you have any thoughts on it, or?
I think that while they were friends, they took advantage of her, and she was starting to distance themselves from her. So they've lashed out because she was their trust fund, she was their
piggy bank.
And I think, it was just she wasn't there to fleece money out of, so they lashed out. And it got out of hand. I don't know. It's like I said to you after I watched it. What really got me was she went into that closet out cold. She wasn't dead. As far as they know, she wasn't dead going into that closet. She was knocked out. She died of suffocation in the closet. I just hope she died while she was knocked out.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because she would have come round. Don't forget, she's took a massive kicking. She's probably concussed. You imagine you wake up, you can't remember what's happened, but it's pitch black because you got a bag over your head. You can't breathe. You got to imagine how scared she was.
Terrifying.
That bit really got to me.
Yeah. Well, that's the case of the murder of Latisha Frazier. Her sister Latoya has said that Latisha's daughter, Diamond, is like her twin. And that Diamond still remembers her mother, which, considering she was so young when her mother died, that's really nice to hear that her daughter still has the memory of her. Yeah, sorry lads, that was...
It's a hard one, that.
It's very full on because it's just disrespect after disrespect.
Yeah.
I think the most shocking bit for me is when you watch the footage back, seeing Brian with his arm around her mother, and then you're like, you
telling her she's coming home.
Yeah. You're fucking...
And his stupid hat.
Yeah, his fucking pig hat.
So, I know I request this a lot when it's a tougher case.
I specifically have a nice oddity for you.
Okay.
So for our oddity, we're going to talk about Davon Johnson. On the 9th of December 2021 in Oklahoma, Davon was at school, regular day, I'm sure, when one of the kids in his class began choking on a bottle cap.
And that's funny because...
It's not funny. It's absolutely not funny that someone was choking Neil. Seeing this, Davon was quick on his feet, rushed over and performed the Heimlich manoeuvre and saved his classmate.
Fucking hell.
Good man. Yeah?
Yeah.
Later that day, Davon's on his way home, and on his way home, he looks across the street and sees an elderly woman with her walker struggling to get out of her house quick enough.
Okay.
Her house was on fire. Okay?
Yeah.
Davon again fucking runs over, helps this woman get clear of the fire and into her car. Davon is only 11 years old.
Yeah.
In one day, this fucking kid has saved 2 people's lives.
You can look at it that way, but I see it as he's a fucking jinx.
Anywhere he goes. This 11-year-old killed. This 11-year-old kid saved 2 people in one fucking day. Davon was made an honorary member of the sheriff's office and the police force. And apparently, this is the thing, this is what I fucking love about this kid. He had previously watched tutorials on YouTube of how to do the Heimlich maneuver. Like, this guy fucking comes prepared. He's just I've just in case I need it, lads. And he fucking did it.
Voluptuous.
What? Scaluptuous.
Voluptuous. Yeah. Good. Like.
What?
Good. Like.
Voluptuous. Is that a word?
Yeah.
What is happening today? Are you taking the piss?
No.
Okay, so Neil's clearly learned a few new words.
I have to improve my vocabulary. Oh, fuck. That's it for tonight, folks.
See you next time.
So so you see it, he's a saviour.
And you're saying he's a fucking jinx.
Jinx. I wouldn't want him near me. I'd kick him away.
I gave you a nice oddity.
It isn't, it is.
The kid's fucking 11 years old and he saved 2 people in the one day and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it feels like a setup. It stinks, I tell you.
To high heavens.
So yeah. Well, at least I'm teaching you some new words. Yeah. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Find us on Patreon, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. If you have a case suggestion, or maybe even your own story, email us at mortalmusingspodcast@gmail.com.